What's up, podcasters? Welcome back. Today we're talking about the Nelk Boys and the Full Send podcast and what they're doing correctly to get as much traffic and attention that they are. We're going to look at their different channels. We're going to break down their traffic methods. We're going to give you a bunch of new ideas for how you could do this for yourself. And if that sounds good, let's get crack-a-lackin'. They started out as the Nelk Boys on YouTube, and they grew a channel based on antics, pranks, and fun little skits and stuff that they did in the street. They grew themselves to an 8 million subscriber channel, massive channel with only 389 videos. They started in, I believe, 2010, and they kind of just grew and grew, and they ended up actually getting themselves in the news a couple of times, and that really flooded a lot of people to their channel. So what they did was they built themselves a nice fat channel called Nelk. Okay. Now they've got themselves a nice community of people where they put out a video and people come back and they watch the video. And that's basically what you're doing with your podcast, just likely on a smaller scale. What they did was to actually expand themselves into a business. They started a merch line called Full Send. And what they started to do was funnel Nelk traffic to their website and their merchandise. So they got these really loyal people going to their website, buying the merchandise. That's t-shirts, mugs, all kinds of stuff. So they started making money with their website, which is fabulous. And this is not even a podcast yet. And then what they did was they took this loyal following and they started another show, another YouTube channel, brand new, called the Full Send podcast. Now the Full Send podcast, let's just jump over to YouTube. I'll show it to you. So this is their original channel. This is the Full Send podcast. So they've got 2 million subscribers, okay? And this is where they're actually like interviewing people. Take a look at the thumbnail here because they've got their merch all over the place in these videos. They're all wearing Happy Dad hats. They've got the drinks there. They've got all the merch that they're wearing all over the place. God bless them. So what they started doing was sending their traffic from Nelk to Full Send, because it's fair to say that if you like Nelk Boys, you'll probably like the Full Send podcast. And they started sending that traffic to the website. And then they came out with Happy Dad, which is a beverage company. Whoops, Happy Dad, not Dab. It's a different company. But they had Happy Dad, and then they started other channels. So they came out with a Clips channel. They have a golf channel. And they've got all these other channels that build out their little media empire or large media empire. You can do this as well with your podcast. And what it all comes down to is getting yourself a loyal fan base. So if you already have a loyal fan base, then you're kind of in luck, because getting the traffic is sometimes the hardest thing to do. But getting the conversion can be simpler, especially if you already have the traffic. So if you already have a podcast with some traffic, then I want you to think about this. This is your show, your pod, okay? And you've got yourself, your subscribers. And these are people that come back and they repetitively visit your content, and you're wondering how do I turn this into a .com business? Okay, it's about using the traffic wisely. So I put together this little guide here. It's a little strategy growth guide built on the Nelk Boys' success. So I figured we'd run through the phases and we'll just kind of talk about it a little bit. So number one, phase one is build viral content machines. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to come out with content that people want to consume. So if your podcast is struggling with traffic, this is really for you, because you need to start getting people involved somehow, some way. One of the best ways that you could do this, we're actually going to jump right down to number 3 here, is we're going to repurpose content. And this is a great way to kickstart things. When you made your podcast episode, let's just talk about one episode here. It cost you money. It cost you time. It probably took a lot of effort. So you're in You're already invested. You might have had a guest on. You might have spent money on set pieces and lighting and a studio and all this other stuff. But what I want you to start doing is repurposing the content, because it's going to exponentially grow the show. So that means chopping it into little pieces. Now, this works even if you're doing an audio-only podcast. You'll have to get a little creative with what you're going to show, because I'm envisioning you doing this on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, stuff like that is going to work really well. Pinterest, you could do Pinterest pins if you want. What we're doing is we're cutting up interesting pieces. So we end up with like a funny moment. We end up with an insightful part. We end up where you guys fighting. We end up with a piece where, you know, you guys touch on some really interesting things, some interesting topics. Once you get these pieces out there, what they're going to do is, let's say you put it on YouTube, you put it on Instagram, you put it on TikTok. All of a sudden, you've got yourself 3 different locations where this one piece of content is, and then this content points back to your main show, your main episode. You got 3 sources going into one, and then you're going to multiply that out into all the repurposed content that you've been creating. So you're talking about 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 sources of traffic going into that episode. If you're able to make 10, you've got yourself 30. Always do good stuff, make good content. But if you started repurposing your stuff, you get a lot more runway out of it, and you increase the chances that people will actually consume it. So the more chances you can give somebody to see you, the better. And if you can hook them, and if you could get the subscriber and get them with a good call to action, then you start winning in a really easy way, because you're showing the algorithm that you're bringing in good people, good stuff, and people that actually want to watch your stuff. And then call to action, that means that you're sending them, just like that diagram before with the Full Send website, we're sending them to a .com, and on that .com is where you can start making money. Now, you can do that with ads. You could do that with an opt-in box for a mailing list, which you should always be collecting emails. You could do that with affiliate offers. That means selling something where you're basically linking to a product that earns you money. This alone can generate so much income if everything's aligned properly that it's hard to believe that it's even possible, but it is. And actually, I've got a video down in the description below. It's a video I put out the other day that talks about offers and finding the right offers for your niche. So I highly suggest you check that out after you watch this video. Let's talk about the next point. Viral hooks and clickbait done right. It gets a bad rap when people don't fulfill the promise. So if you say, I'm giving away a car, you damn well better be giving away a car. Hey, don't do this until you read my guide on investing in stocks, and then you give them the guide, well, then you've followed through with the clickbait. So everything checks out and you're in the good and people like you. But if you do clickbait and you say, let's take an example here, the biggest lie about making money on YouTube, and then you don't address it, well, then you're going to look like a dick, and you don't want to look like a dick. Let's talk about phase 2, leverage controversy and polarizing topics. Now, this is obviously for very specific people. Negative emotions, unfortunately, is what prompts a lot of people to respond. That is why so much negativity actually floats to the top online, is because it is so easy to get somebody to react. So you can do this, you can do it in a tasteful way. I would be very careful with it. You can actually ride the wave of news in a positive light as well. So for instance, I'll pull up Google Trends here just so you could see, but this is what people are actually looking up in real time and what's trending right now. We can sort it by, so this is the last 24 hours. So for instance, RFK Jr.'s trending, Cobra Kai is trending. All these different things are obviously in the news right now. So for instance, this is interesting, if you were to make an episode about Cobra Kai and post it today, tomorrow, something like that, there's a good chance that you would get picked up because this is something that people are actually looking up right this moment. And that might mean that there's a news thing involved. So like we've got Cobra Kai, got some images, the cast, Wikipedia, and then we've got top stories. This is like the finale. They're talking about the finale, all this stuff, who these people are, they're engaged or whatever it is. This is a good way to get to the top of Google, and your podcast, let's say you uploaded it to YouTube or Reddit or wherever, there's a good chance that you could actually show up right here. Like this InStyle magazine or whatever, like they are literally showed up here. So the lesson within this, leveraging controversy and polarizing topics, is really to leverage the news and leverage topics that are in the news right now. Just talk about things that are actually relevant to today, and you have a much higher chance of actually showing up in search for these different things. Now we could talk a little bit about merchandise and digital products. I have a video that talks about that. It's going to be in the description below. Definitely check it out. It talks about all the different ways you can monetize your podcast. You can partner with a sponsor that feels native. Sponsorships are tricky, especially for smaller podcasts. It can be difficult to get that attention that you want and need, and it can be difficult to get the money up front for a sponsorship. So what I usually recommend for people is that they really just focus on getting traffic to the podcast. Just get those listeners in and then do a host-read ad. And it's so simple. You just literally do an ad where you're like, hey, go to my website. Here's my site.com or whatever. And then on that site, that's where you make your money with affiliate offers and whatnot. And just a really quick example of that is if you're running a true crime podcast, you can send them to the website, and on the site you can have resources relating to that episode. So like photographs of the people involved, links and sources, and then you can have things like the Hunt a Killer game, which is like a board game where you solve a murder and stuff like that. So something like true crime would really link up quite well with something like this, because your goal of the game is to like actually solve these things. So it's kind of cool. We get to like the final act, murder at the talent show, you get to actually solve it. So it's a good alignment for an offer. Scale and go mainstream. I mean, this happens later on if you're lucky enough. You just really need to keep on it and keep making those episodes. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, Matt, this doesn't really apply to me because my show is so small that I don't have any of this stuff. Well, if you're a small show and you're producing content and you get a few people paying attention, that is all you need to send to something that earns you money. I want you to understand that you do not need a lot of traffic to make money. In fact, you don't need 1 million subscribers. You don't even need 100 subscribers. If your thing, whatever it is tight-knit enough, you can actually get a really good conversion rate just based on a good offer aligning with whatever it is that your show's about. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, just as an example, let's say your show is about cars and you do a video series on how to create keys for your car, okay? Now, if anybody here owns a car and has ever lost a key, you know that the dealer likes to charge you between, let's say, $150 to $1,000 to give you a new key. So let's say your episode is about VW keys, Ford keys, etc. You could do an entire series of podcasts where you're explaining the inner workings of all of these keys. And you can send everybody to your website, and your call to action is, hey, if you need keys made, then I use this tool. And The tool is called Xhorse, VVDI. So there are these programming kits that people use to actually make the keys. So let's say you're an actual pro and you know what you're talking about. I clearly don't. But we've got our website here, and you've got episodes that talk about all the different keys that you can reprogram and how to do it and whatever. If they all happen to use the same tool or set of tools, then you put that tool on your website. And you say, okay, well, if you happen to need VW keys, go to my site. If you need Ford keys, go to my site. In fact, if you go to my website, I've got a drop-down menu that has all the different brands in it. And you pick out of there your make and model and year. And then I'm going to show you exactly what tool to get. And the tool will cost between, let's say, $100 and $500. And what you do is you link them to that tool. You're now funneling that traffic in a way that really starts to add up very quickly, because let's say that tool nets you between 1 and 10% of the total cost. Well, you might be making between $1 and $10 or more. You could find other offers. Some offers pay $100. And then you're making, let's say, based on a 1% conversion rate. Okay, so we're talking about 100 people listening to your episode. So that's not a lot of people. They're interested in keys. 1% is equal to one person buying it. So that is your $1 or $10, right? So you're making, let's say, $10 or even $1. Now you compare that to an ad. Now the ads might only be paying 30 cents every 1,000 people. So you've already made 3 times the amount of money just by going the route of the affiliate. And if you drop ship that product, let's say it's something you can order ahead of time because you know you're selling them, you know that it makes money, you could drop ship that and you can charge a premium on it. And then you can earn between, really sky's the limit, $20, $50, $200 a sale. But it actually compounds in a really nice way. So let's do another example. So let's talk about stocks. Let's say you had a show about stock, and every week you do an episode and you talk about the top stocks of the week. Okay? So we do a recap, and maybe you do an episode during the week and you do an episode at the end of the week. Okay? And we're talking about all the different players, right? So we've got Ford stock. We've got Berkshire Hathaway. We've got General Electric. Okay? Then we've got Walmart, and we'll do one more, and Target. They went up, they went down, their buys, their holds, whatever it is. Hey, by the way, if you want to get the stock picks that I'm getting, and you want to get the returns that I'm getting, go to my website. Here's my site. And then you can actually opt in to my mailing list. And I'm going to give you a free stock guide. And it's going to have all the top stocks that I choose for the week, the month, the quarter, the year, last year, whatever. And that way you're collecting the emails. So you're doing an opt-in box. Let me move this over. You do an opt-in box. And then what you're going to do is you're going to push a good service. And again, I have a video in the description that goes deeper into this, but you're going to pick something like Motley Fool. They pay between, I think it's like $79 a sale. You get $79 for getting somebody to sign up. So let's say you get 100 downloads on the first episode. You get 100 downloads on the second episode. You get 100 downloads on the third episode. You get 300 on the next one. You get 500 on the next one. Now we're looking at, let's say, 1,000 people on a 1% conversion rate. So you've got 1,000 listeners over a period of time times 0.01, right? Now we're looking at 10 people going to that website and actually buying something. That's that 1% conversion rate I was talking about. You might get 30%. You might get more than that. But you'll get a lot of people going to the website as long as you have a good, strong call to action, a reason to go. Get my stock guide. I talk about all this stuff automatically delivered to your mailbox. Every week I give you my stock picks. You don't even have to listen to the show. I will email it to you, so you don't even have to worry about it. And then you have the Motley Fool here. So let's say that you got 10 of those sales. 10 times 79, my math brain is not working, but you're looking at $790. Now let's say that you got those 1,000 people in a week to tune in. You might be pulling in $790 a week. Now, let's do the stupid math on the ads. Let's say because you're only getting 30 cents a thing, maybe you're earning $300 if you're lucky from the Podbean ads or from whatever service you're using. That's if you're lucky. Not only that, but by having the website, you have the mailing list. So these are warm people. These are already people, fans that like you without spamming them, but you get to contact them with new episodes. Hey, check out the new episode. We talk about X, Y, and Z. Hey, I've got this famous stock guy on. Come check it out. Hey, we're doing a special where we're doing paid content now, premium content. If you head over here, we're doing a 50% off deal. It's only happening this weekend. Things that can earn you more views because you send them back into the podcast. So you send them back to the show. You can send them to offers, right? So maybe they didn't buy off the site, but you can always put a link down at the bottom where it's just like, hey, by the way, here's the stock tips that I get. They give me 10 stock tips a month. You should check it out. And then you can send them to blog posts like other episode blog posts. Here's how to save money in a recession. Like, here's a job guide for the recession. Here's how to save. You could save $1,000. Go read this. You can cross-promote with other podcasts. I touched on this before, but talking with other professionals in your niche is going to be huge for you because you're getting their audience to tune in to your audience and your audience to tune in with theirs. So if they have a larger following, you're leveraging their platform, their audience to come and listen to you. Have a good, strong call to action. Make sure you discuss it with the other podcaster before you do so, and just try to self-promote. If you could get those people over, you've got yourself some new loyal listeners and hopefully a growing podcast. So if you guys like this video, please let me know in the comments and I will catch you on the next video very soon. Also, make sure you go to my website, podcastpontifications.com, join the mailing list. I'll catch you on the next video.